Lincoln Stars pulling down the mic as we speak, getting ready for another Rewind show. We talk Huskers for an entire hour, and we've got a lot of stuff lined up for you on tonight's show. But as we always do, we like to get to the starting gate. We like to remind you how quickly this show moves, how many topics that we like to hit. And so we start with the Rewind. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Wait a minute.
Hi, Tom.
Hello. Now the computer completely shut down.
Well, of course it did. I can't do the bugle, but I'll jump in and do the starting gate. How about that?
I didn't do anything wrong this time, Mike. I hit the damn thing and it just wouldn't play. So go ahead with the starting gate.
All right, starting gate. This last week, Nebraska basketball gets a commitment from 6'7" guard Eli Rice. He's going to be attending the IMG Academy. Chose Nebraska over Georgetown and Murray State, amongst many others. Nebraska baseball added another recruit to their 2022 recruiting class. You would think probably the last one. They now have 25 commits in this class that will be playing for the Huskers next spring. J.C. Gutierrez, who was a Texas Tech commit for 2 years, committed to the Huskers. The left-hander dominated the largest classification of prep baseball in Texas this spring, striking out 153 batters over 82 and a third innings, 2.30 ERA. He only walked 42 in those 82 innings as well. So in the last week-ish, both J.C. Gutierrez, who is literally the best pitcher in Texas prep baseball this last year, because he did this dominant performance.
Is he an immediate starter weekend guy, you think?
No, I don't think he is, because, and here's why. Because they've got a ton of talent coming back. And then the other guy that committed to Nebraska just about a week and a half ago, Jalen Worthley of Lincoln East. Two big-time left-handed arms for the Huskers that may come out of the bullpen as freshmen. Who knows? They may become a Tuesday starter, work their way into the rotation on the weekends as well. But, man, Will Bolt, what a class, adds to it this week. Husker freshman wide receiver DeColdis Crawford will miss an extended period of time after suffering a knee injury in last Saturday's scrimmage. Just out, all 110 of Nebraska's training camp participants will make the trip to Ireland. However, only 70, I believe 4, will suit up for the game per Big Ten rules. It's 70, but I saw somewhere that they're actually able to suit up 74. But regardless, only there's going to be about 40 of them that will not suit up, but 110 will make the trip. Trev Alberts hired former Husker golfer and Husker golf assistant coach Judd Cornell, who was the head coach at Creighton on Thursday, to head up the Nebraska men's golf team in the wake of the resignation of Brett Baylock following his arrest on DUI charges. And then yesterday, former Husker hoops forward and Iowa State forward Michael Jacobson caught a touchdown pass for the Indianapolis Colts from Sam Ehlinger.
I did not know that.
Sam Ehlinger at Texas tossed it to him. On the depth chart, they have a grand total on their roster of 5 tight ends, and their depth chart only goes 4 deep, and he's not on it.
He's an athletic dude.
He's an athletic dude.
And he's 6'8", and he can jump.
Yeah. And he doesn't necessarily look like your prototypical NFL tight end, but I can tell you right now, the man has got great athletic ability, and who knows what's going to happen.
Of course, he chose Nebraska out of high school to play basketball, and then he transferred to Iowa State. But I was thinking about this. I mean, I think out of high school, he was offered as an offensive lineman. Maybe some schools did offer him as a tight end, but I think there were several schools that offered Michael Jacobson maybe as an offensive lineman. But I could be wrong on that. But it's great that he's making a move as a tight end.
Yeah. Free agent deal with the Colts.
He has that Austin Allen type size and probably more athleticism than Austin Allen. I thought that when Nebraska lost him as a basketball player, that was a big loss.
Well, yeah, he went to Iowa State and averaged 17 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Miles was having problems anyway, but losing Michael Jacobson was a big deal. But that's good. I like the rundown. Nebraska gets a new pitcher, and he's good for this class, right?
Yeah. That's the thing. And when you've got Shea Shanaman coming back,
you
it's
want to
off
go
the
through
top
the
of my head.
Roster?
No, we're good. There's 25 new guys. They're going to be on campus here in the next week or so, starting classes, and they're going to have an opportunity.
You got Kyle Perry coming back. Shea Shanaman.
Kyle Perry's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Emmett Olson, who had a nice year. Caleb Feakin is still here. Shea Shanaman, though, and is a bet. Braxton Bragg is still around. Drew Christo is starting another year. Cody Frank, is he coming back or not? I mean, I can't remember.
I don't remember that.
CJ Hood will be here for another year.
Colby Gomez should be back.
Yeah, Colby Gomez. So I like this pitching staff, and that they add another piece to the puzzle. Nebraska baseball does. I want to start with some camp chatter here, Mike, because there was a lot that came out this week. I'll just read the quote.
Okay.
And you guess which transfer it came from.
Okay.
Because you like to hear what new guys in the program who had success at other programs are saying about your program, right? In this case, I don't think it'll be difficult to guess who said this, but he said, if you come in and you have a bad day, you're going to lose your job. He wasn't talking about this program. He was talking about a different program, talking about what made that program consistent. He was talking about Alabama. He says, it's always about being competitive, always trying to get better, never settling. He was talking about what made Alabama different. But he also had some good things to say about Nebraska's defense, saying that he thinks that they could be one of the better defenses in the country. Who are we talking about?
I'm pretty confident that it's Stephen Nguyen.
Yeah, it's Stephen Nguyen, who I don't think will start at Nebraska. Maybe he'll move into the starting lineup. I think Ty Robinson is one guy. I think Feist or Feist, how you pronounce Colton Feist, will be the two starters at this point. But he's certainly one of those guys, along with Devin Drew, competing for starting time. You look at that defensive line, and I think it was a big area of concern in the offseason, and now I think suddenly it's become possibly an area of strength.
Okay. I was going to say, real quick, I hate to interrupt, but you said you were going to do a second quote. I would like you to do that, but then right after that, I've kind of got the gone and here on the defensive line I think we need to talk about.
Okay. I want to read this quote, though, for you.
Okay.
Coming out of camp this past week. It's a lot more intense than I'm used to, which surprised me that this guy said that. He also talked about culture. He said, it's more disciplined here. I think the culture here is more in a growing aspect because there's a lot of history here. What do you think I'm talking about there?
I'll be honest with you. I was surprised. I know who it is. It's O'Shawn Mathis.
Yeah.
For him to say that the culture is better than it was under Gary Patterson at TCU speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. I'm excited that a guy, and I don't think it would be lip service, because if you're coming from another culture into Nebraska's culture and you think it's iffy, you wouldn't say anything, right?
No,
you wouldn't go out. You wouldn't go out of your way to point out that the culture is really strong here. And Stephen Nguyen said the same, some of the same things. He was talking about the Alabama culture and what it made it so good. And hey, if you don't show up that day at practice, you're going to lose your gig. That's why, and that kind of reminded me of the old days at Nebraska. Like, hey, if you're Grant Wistrom and you don't want to lose your job to Jason Peter, you better play well that day. That type of thing that happened on a daily basis. I don't think Nebraska is Alabama. I'm not saying that. But I do think that guys with experience and talent coming here and saying these things and raising the level of everybody else is important. And I think you're starting to see some of that. And I know this is Kool-Aid season to a certain degree. We're 13 days ahead of kickoff, and we swore we wouldn't drink the Kool-Aid, but we're drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit.
Well, because
it's quotes like this that we haven't heard in a while.
But the thing is, what strikes me more than anything is who the quotes are coming from. I'll be honest, if they were coming from anybody that was on the coaching staff last season or any players from prior teams, not transfers, I would be quite skeptical just based on factual history. The flip side is coming from Stephen Nguyen, coming from O'Shawn Mathis. It makes me raise an eyebrow and go, you know what? Maybe my grape Kool-Aid does need just a touch more sugar, and I think I'm going to have another glass.
We swore we wouldn't do this, and we're doing it.
I know.
We are drinking the Kool-Aid.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Casey Rogers and Jordan Riley, would you rather have, or Stephen Nguyen and Devin Drew?
The only defensive lineman that is not currently here that left that I would like to have back is probably Damian Daniels.
Makes sense.
Or Darian Daniels, who's the bigger brother. I would take either Daniel brothers. He was a type of guy that could eat up 2 blockers.
Yep.
He's a guy that I think can be replaced by a guy like Nash Hutmacher, who is a weight room demon. You're hearing that. I mean, he's just a maniac in the weight room. I think he could be that type of guy over 300 pounds. Ty Robinson certainly could be that guy, maybe a little more athletic than Damian Daniels. That's the only guy that left that I think maybe there's a little bit of a void. But you've got Stephen Nguyen now. I think the 2 starters right now are going to be Feist. I mean, they sat here in the chair that you're in, Brent Banks, on your side. On the other side, of course, we had Nuri, and he said, that's the toughest guy we have every day to block. And we both looked at each other. The walk-on, Colton Feist, is the toughest guy to block every day? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'll take those two's word over
ours.
Anybody, any reporter that's reporting what's going on.
Right.
So
yeah, and they say it's been that way actually for a couple of years. The problem with Colton is he hasn't been able to stay injury free.
Yeah,
and he's not the biggest dude in the world. He's 6'2", 275. So he takes a pounding, as a lot of guys that are walk-ons do. He takes a pounding, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and therefore he hasn't been able to get on the field.
And another guy that I know they mentioned, the reaction to me, I was truly, I was blown away by the reaction of Nuri, I can never is Nuri,
yeah,
and Brent Banks.
He basically said nobody ever pronounces it correctly.
I know, but
it's Nuri. Just call him Nuri.
Anyway, Nuri and Brent Banks last week on the show when they joined us, I brought up a name and I said freshman Ernest Hausman, and both of them, I didn't finish saying Hausman, and they both interrupted me, and they're like, he is not a freshman. The dude's 26. Right. Nobody has a body like, I mean, oh man. Yeah. And lo and behold, on some projected 2 deep depth charts, you're seeing behind Luke Reimer or Ernest Hausman as a true freshman. And you know, let's face it, athleticism and game intelligence, be it football, basketball, whatever sport you're going to play. But if you have the intelligence and understand your sport and the way to do it, football smarts, basketball smarts, baseball smarts, hockey smarts, if you have that, you get further if you don't have God-given talents. And from everything I've heard about Ernest Hausman, he's got a little combination of both. And I think he's a guy that I think he's going to see some playing time, and maybe even in the opener over in Ireland.
Yeah, and it's not normal for a freshman at a very complicated position, quite frankly, to see that kind of playing time with guys like, you know, Luke Reimer and Nick Henrich hanging around, and you're hearing Ernest Hausman. But that is a name certainly to watch as fall camp and then the season progresses. I want to continue our little game of I give you the quote,
okay,
and you tell me who the player was. This quote interested me this week. I heard it out of camp. Our defense is really good. I always tell our offense that it's awesome that we get to go against them every day because they truly are great at disguising their coverage. If we're having a good practice against that defense, then we really know that the offense has progressed.
I'll be honest with you. I would say Mark Whipple said that, which tells me it's a quarterback that I think would be a good coach. So I'm going to guess Chubba Purdy.
It is Chubba Purdy that said that about the defense this week. And that leads me into another quote from a different quarterback who said this: we need more voices on offense. You have me and you have Travis Vokalek, but I think the defense has a lot more guys picking up guys. And it leads to a discussion and to who do you think those guys could be on offense. But that makes sense that right now Casey Thompson, who's been a leader at Texas as a quarterback, would be one of the leaders. And he did say that. Casey Thompson said that. But there does seem to be a problem in that it's just Casey and Travis Vokalek. Who would be a nominee for you to be one of the voices on offense for Nebraska?
Not knowing his personality, because I haven't seen him in front of television cameras a whole lot, but a guy that I think could, simply because of the clout he brought with him from junior college, is Anthony Grant. Mm-hmm. I don't know that Alante Brown, his personality lends to him being a guy that's going to go get in your face but being here as long as he has, and you hear from coaches and his his teammates that he's a guy that is really truly getting it, understanding it. But the thing is, you don't want people to be fake about it either. If you're simply not a guy that is going to go get in somebody's face, then don't try to be.
Yeah.
So I maybe an offensive lineman or two.
I think it needs to be an offensive lineman. We said yesterday when they were sitting here, and it wasn't just because we were afraid of them, Brant Banks and Nuri Nawili, that, those guys are usually the smartest guys, the most intelligent, most articulate guys on the team. And they tend to be leaders on those teams. And I think you need, if Cam Jurgens were still here, I'd say it's Cam Jurgens.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
but
a
he's
question.
Not, there wouldn't be any question. It's Cam Jurgens. That guy needs to step up, and I think he would have been stepping up by now. But go ahead.
Did you see the highlights from Cam Jurgens' first game with the Eagles?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
I know it's preseason, but he's embarrassing guys.
Yep. I mean, and obviously, those quotes about Frost, he's turning out to be a prophet, by the way. There were some people that said, wait a minute, you're taking one of the best high school tight ends in the country who's been committed to Nebraska for 4 years, and now you say he's a center? This dude's going to transfer. This dude is not going to put up with that. And there were worries that early in his career that Cam Jurgens would leave Nebraska, that he would transfer. But Scott Frost, to his credit, looked at this dude and said, you're a center, and you're going to be a great center. And then 15, 20 snaps later over quarterbacks' heads, we were saying, well, okay, maybe he's a great center, but if he can't snap the ball, it doesn't really matter. So it took him a while to learn that position, and he became a great center, and now I think he's going to be a great NFL center. But it still triggers the discussion. He's not here.
No.
Adrian, you would say Adrian, if he were still here, he would be Wandell. If he were here, he would be one of the leaders on that offense. But none of those guys are here. And so you're wondering, well, is it Trent Hickson? He's the new center. Who is it? I mean, is it Bryce Benhart? No, probably not.
I think Teddy Prohaska is just too young, I think.
Turner Corcoran has struggled from time. He's still young. I don't know that there is a guy on that offense. I would say Nuri Nawili if he were playing this year.
Yeah.
I think Brant Banks has a chance to be that guy as a leader on the offensive line. But there's just not a lot of dudes, unlike the defense, who are proven enough or experienced enough to say, hey, this is my team. Listen to me. Because you heard that quote earlier this week from Mark Whipple saying, we need one voice in the huddle. And Casey Thompson kind of came back and said, yeah, I am the one voice, but I also need guys to help me.
Yeah. And
Travis Vokalek is there, but I need some help. When things are going bad, and they were going bad earlier this week when they admit they were embarrassed by the defense. They got dominated in a practice earlier this week by the defense. I don't think it's been the case throughout fall camp. I think they've had their days where they've won. But that day, there was not a voice. I think Whipple used the word panic. They just, he didn't like the way they had reacted to failure, to adversity. So you're going to need not just Casey Thompson or Travis Vokalek. You're going to need more voices on that offense this year.
Absolutely. And that then leads to the discussion to me a little bit. I know one of the positions we've yet to talk about and really go into any in-depth, we kind of were saving it for almost last. I think it would be the last position group we haven't done is quarterback.
Yeah.
And, you just had a couple of quotes from essentially the top two in pecking order from everything that we're hearing, Casey Thompson and Chubba Purdy. So as far as Thompson goes, reading this week, what was wrong with his hand? His thumb, and I have no idea how he even was able to pick up a football, let alone grip it enough to throw it. I don't care if it has spiral or not. How anybody could put up with that to throw a football 5 inches, let alone 50 yards down. I don't know.
He said he could do enough to kind of fake it, where he could make it work. I think that was the phrasing that he used. And then he had the surgery, and it took some time after the surgery. And now he says he's 100%. And the guys that see him at practice say there's some zip on the ball, that he can really spin it. And that was probably not the case in spring when he was still recovering. I don't think you saw the version in spring that you're seeing from Casey Thompson now. But I also think you're if we're just dismissing Chubba Purdy, that might be a mistake. Maybe you could say, yeah, what Scott Frost said is true, that it's his job to lose, and I believe that is the case, that it's his job to lose. But it doesn't mean he couldn't lose it. I mean, just because it's your job to lose doesn't mean you can't lose it.
Oh, exactly.
I don't think Chubba Purdy's just going to say, well, I'm happy with number 2. That's good. I'm only a freshman. I'm good.
Well, and I also think that I don't know that they would do it. It really just would seem out of character for Frost or Whipple to go, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and give Chubba 2 drives in the second quarter at some point in game 1, 2, or 3. I hopefully game 1 is a win somehow, some way. And then they come home against North Dakota and Georgia Southern. And the games are a big enough blowout that Chubba gets to get in, get some real-time action in the, with his Nebraska teammates, and gives him some confidence to the point where if Casey Thompson, has to go out for a series or a half or something happens to where he's going to miss a little bit of time, you've got a guy that's already got he's got his feet wet here. Right. And who knows? I'm happier with the quarterback position than I have been in the last 3 years, just because outside of prior to the Colorado game in 2019, Adrian Martinez's sophomore year, I was really excited about it. After that game, I was like, okay, something's broken because he's not the same player he was as a freshman. And then the last 3 years have just not been great. But I'm excited about these two. I think they are. I'm just be honest. I think they're an upgrade from who we had for the last 4 years. I'm not, as a person, Adrian's one of the best human beings you'd ever want to meet. Man. But I think these two are more talented quarterbacks.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest and say I do not know what Nebraska's getting out of the quarterback situation because I haven't seen them. We don't get to see practice. You get to see a little throwing, 10 minutes of warm-ups, that type of thing. I did see, Adrian with a great freshman year. And then I don't totally blame him for not progressing as a quarterback. As I told you, I think Mario Verduzco had something to do with that. I think Scott Frost has to share in some of that. I think they have to look at themselves and said, they turned down a Heisman candidate. I don't know that they always know everything about the quarterback position. Otherwise, maybe they would have taken Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
They made some mistakes. One of them is Luke McCaffrey seeing him as a quarterback. It does make me wonder with Casey Thompson, the 1, at least for now, and Chubba Purdy, number 2. I think Chubba's got some legs. If you want to, I don't think they're done adding offense. If you like the option game from Chubba and think he can run it a little bit better and you don't want to get Casey a lot of hits, maybe you bring him in occasionally in the second quarter. I don't know what Mark Whipple is thinking. I'm not inside his head. He might be thinking, listening to this conversation, you're nuts. I'm a 1 quarterback guy, and I'm not going to take my guy out just because I need to run the option a couple of times. Forget that. I'm just thinking out loud. I think that Chubba Purdy is a really good athlete. I think he's better than Brock Purdy.
I would agree there.
I think he's better than his brother athletically. He may not be the thrower. We'll see. But I think let's put it this way. There wasn't a time where Adrian played the entire season. There wasn't a time where Taylor Martinez played the entire season without getting injured. There wasn't a time where Tommy Armstrong played the entire season without getting injured. We remember Riker Fife. We remember guys coming into games because guys get banged up. And I'm just saying, Chubba, be ready.
And I'm just saying, Riker Fife had one of the 400-yard passing games in Nebraska football history. So,
I don't miss him that much.
No, good kid though, very good kid. Good kid. Now, and we focused on the top 2, but I mean, Logan Smothers is exactly what you want in the locker room and exactly the type of player that you want representing the university that you cheer for.
Another guy that can run.
He can run, but the other thing is, he's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Feel different.
I did not hit that mic.
You talk
Are you sure?
You draw different. You listen to music.
I did not hit that. Did not do it. So we'll play it at some point.
I was going to say our fun-filled computer that does its own thing. So at any rate, Logan Smothers probably in the number 3 in the pecking order right now. And then after that, you've got to go more than likely Richard Torres.
Yeah.
So
I think what happened was which happens every week. It
bounced back.
It bounced back.
Figures.
So we'll have to keep watching that. I don't know how much of the conversation that you've been hearing, but we've been talking about the quarterback situation. Casey Thompson, his job to lose, and I believe that is the case from Scott Frost. But I'm just saying, Chubba Purdy has a chance to make a dent. And I think he'd make an impact this season for Nebraska football.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
We've got lots to talk about on this particular show. That's our quarterback breakdown. Talked about Camp Chatter, some of the stuff going on. 13 days until they fly to Ireland.
Well, no, they'll be there. I think they're leaving Friday, but 13 days till kickoff.
13 days to kickoff. Yeah, they'll obviously go. I think a lot of people are leaving like on the 20th.
Yeah, I know Strick is. So
talk to Steve Taylor says he's leaving. He's playing a lot of golf. Yeah, Strick is going. I know a lot of people doing their shows from Ireland. So a lot of people will be there within the next week.
Yep.
But we want to talk about some stuff going on in college football related to the Big Ten. One of them is the TV deal. And it's kind of interesting. Would you be upset if Nebraska no longer played on ESPN? How upset would you be? We'll talk about it. It is the Husker Sunday Rewind. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. Back with more after this.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids. First, I hold my hands out like they're on a steering wheel. Then I look over my shoulder. Next, I put it in reverse. Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them, perhaps on a date, and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seeding Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
This is the Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Mike Melby. That is the legend Tom Stevens. We are talking all kinds of fun stuff, some camp chatter, great quotes from Stephen Nguyen and O'Shawn Mathis. We discussed that in the first segment. Also, Chubba Purdy, Casey Thompson with some interesting quotes. We broke the quarterbacks down. And, Tom, I got a question. What would you do if I said, Tom, I think I'm going to pay you $100 million a year. Would that be okay?
I'd have to think about that. I would definitely take it, and Nebraska's about to take it, as is every Big Ten school. When they signed the deal, according to Sports Business Journal and the New York Post, the Big Ten is closing in on a massive TV deal with Fox, CBS, and NBC that will begin in 2024. Of course, USC and UCLA will be in the conference by then. And that deal is expected to get each Big Ten school as much as $100 million annually. So you're talking about a contract in the neighborhood of $1.6 billion. However, the TV deal will not include ABC or ESPN. How weird would that be for you, Mike Melby, if Nebraska were not to play on ABC or ESPN?
I thought about that, and it's like ABC, and you go back to Keith Jackson days and just the history of it. And it's always the place that you would think Saturday afternoons, that's where you have to be as ABC.
Yes, indeed they do. We're talking about college football.
Exactly. The 1 p.m. game before there was, a 9 o'clock game, an 11 o'clock game, and whatever, 2:30 game, a 3:30 game, a 4 o'clock game, a 5 o'clock game, a 7 o'clock, and all that. It was 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoons, and it was Keith Jackson, then Brent Musburger. It was ABC. ESPN buys them out, all that. Right now, I'll be honest, I don't care. Make sure there's no technical glitches. There's a couple of commentators that I think are better than others. I think we get Ernie Johnson probably more often with this, which is fine. Ernie's good. He's not I'm not as enthralled with him as others. But
I like him for the NBA. I just don't think about him when I think about college football.
Yeah, same here. But I hope we don't wind up on some of the offshoots of NBC and CBS just because.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're hearing about the USA network.
Yeah.
Potentially owned by NBC could be involved. See, I don't mind it being on one of the, ESPN2 or any one of the family of networks on ESPN because it's a sports network.
Yeah.
So you expect to find sports on a sports network. Whatever ESPN, even if you're tuning sometimes into ESPN News, you get a football game occasionally as their, another game bleeds over, which was nice. Because a game would go too long. Maybe it'd be basketball or something like that. And so they would, hey, if you're watching right now, flip over to ESPN 3 or whatever, whatever.
ESPN News.
ESPN News or whatever it is. And that was kind of nice. I don't know how CBS and NBC will handle that. Fox, I'm not worried about. They're experienced. And you can obviously go to the Big Ten network as you have been for your Husker viewing of volleyball. But what about, there were lots of Husker volleyball games that were on ESPN. And now you're not going to have that option. I don't see CBS or NBC airing a lot of Husker volleyball or Big Ten volleyball games.
No, and that's where, to me, the Big Ten network then steps up and has an even more robust schedule for volleyball. I mean, I know UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten Conference in 2024 makes the Big Ten a super league in volleyball, but it really doesn't. It's already a super league. I mean, let's face it, over the course of the last 15 years between Penn State, Nebraska, and Wisconsin, you have, 10 championships in the last 15 years because Penn State ran off 5 in a row. Nebraska's got 4 in the last 15 years, and Wisconsin won. Right there's 10 of the last 15 years are Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin. It's already a super conference, and now you're adding 2 other schools who have always had success. I hope the Big Ten Network does. They dive in, they go whole hog on it, and they absolutely invest in volleyball because they're getting the best product in the country, and it deserves a place in a spotlight.
The other thing that I thought about is that as much as sometimes Nebraska fans hate ESPN and they don't like ABC, and
I think they just hate Kirk Herbstreit.
There seems to be some vitriol there. They've actually been, some of the most highly rated games in Nebraska football history have been on either ABC or ESPN. And those networks weren't afraid to put on Nebraska against Ohio State, and not just Ohio. Nebraska, Iowa was the most watched game, I believe, in BTN history.
Yeah.
And so they understand that, Nebraska's not winning, but they're still drawing people. They're drawing people like crazy. And I think there is some concern that with ABC and NBC or CBS and NBC, that they might not understand the power of Iowa, Nebraska football, or Iowa or Minnesota, Nebraska, or Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Nebraska, Wisconsin. They might not quite get it. Like some of those other longtime sports networks have gotten it, and they'll just rely on Well, let's play another Ohio State game. Ohio State versus Michigan. Ohio State versus Michigan State. Penn State versus Ohio State. Michigan versus Penn State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's some concern that those networks won't focus on the entire league, and they'll focus more on a few brand names.
And I'll be honest, from a quality of broadcast standpoint, and it's the signal that we get or that I get on my television, on any TV that I have owned for the last 20 years, every game that's on CBS, it just is not a great quality picture. It simply isn't. And I don't, maybe it's just me. I don't know, but every game that I watch that's on CBS, the picture quality is horrible.
And I think of it as the SEC network.
Yeah, I agree. And that's probably why it's horrible, because they're associated with the SEC.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll see how it works. I mean, hey, I guess it's hard to complain when you're making $100 million a year.
Exactly.
And think about that. The money that Nebraska will rake in to pay whatever coach they want. You don't like Scott Frost? Go get Urban Meyer, whatever he's doing, and pay him $10 million a year.
Okay, quick, off the top of my head, hot take question. If things did not work out this season and Scott Frost was relieved of his duties and we had the opportunity to hire Urban Meyer, as a Nebraska fan, and one of the biggest ones that I know, what would your thoughts be about Urban Meyer coaching the team that you love?
He's crazy, and I want him immediately.
Fair enough.
I think the same thing about Nick Saban. He's a nut.
I'd take Saban.
He's a nut job, though, and I want him immediately. He's one of the best coaches in college football. I don't care. You know, when Jim Harbaugh's winning, do we really care that Mr. Khaki is weird? You care about the weird when he's not winning.
True. Now, I'd take Bob Stoops in a heartbeat, but
yeah, big game Bob, I don't think is coming back to college football.
No, there was some scuttlebutt and some rumors, I don't know, about 5 years ago. But anyway.
But what I'm saying is, with $100 million a year, you can get any single coach that you want. We've already seen it with the Live Golf Tour. Don't know what it's about. Oh, you're offering $50 million? I'm going. Cam Smith is the latest golfer to say, I'm going to the Live Golf Tour. And I thought it was just going to be has-beens, because it has been mostly has-beens. You know, Koepka could still win at a pretty high level. Bubba Watson's best days are behind him. But now, you know, money does, you know, maybe it still never works, and I don't think it will work.
Long term, no.
But that's a different story from Nebraska football, being able to pay a coach. I mean, so many times I've seen it happen. You get the right guy as your head coach, everything changes, because we've seen everything change as it relates to the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness. Nebraska's at the forefront. They brought in 16 transfers that they wouldn't have gotten without the money, and they're going to get a lot more money. I know name, image, likeness, the money doesn't come from the university. Technically, it's the boosters, but it doesn't hurt to have that kind of money.
Okay, so you bring up something interesting about if you get the right coach, and it leads me to something that you and I have got a absolute passion about, and it is the podcast that we do. It's called Nebraska Gems.
Yes.
And last week we dropped the episode that is with Nebraska volleyball play-by-play man John Baylor, and you asked him a question regarding coaches that is fascinating. If you have not gone and listened to the latest episode of Nebraska Gems, go to nebraskagems.com. It's right there. It's the latest episode. It's episode 8. And when you asked him, John Baylor said, or it was more phrased in, would you rather be the guy,
Terry Pettit or John Cook?
Yeah, or Bob Devaney,
would you
or
rather
Tom
be
Osborne?
Bob Devaney or Tom Osborne?
Yeah, the innovator or the guy that's got to maintain.
And I would much rather be the innovator, because nothing was expected. I mean, if you don't like Bob Devaney, you fire him. Like all the other coaches, it didn't work. So what? We'll try what's next. If Terry Pettit hadn't succeeded, not that what he did wasn't great. It was incredible what he did. What Bob Devaney did was incredible to build it. I'm just saying, I'd rather be the guy that if I don't build it, I move on to the next gig. The pressure is enormous on a guy like Tom Osborne to have to maintain 2 national championships that Bob Devaney just won. It's like, here's the car. You better not. If I see a dent in it when I get home tonight, little mister, I don't care where it comes from. I don't even care if it happened by you. If one of your friends did it and your friends are begging you, come on, take us out for a ride.
Yep.
It's just sitting there. Come on. They'll never know. We saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Cameron. He lets Ferris take the car and he wrecks it. That's what happens when you're the guy that has to follow a legend. There's a lot of pressure in that. And what Tom Osborne did, what John Cook has done, not only to maintain it, but to make it so much better.
Yeah.
I think what Tom Osborne and what John Cook did much harder. And again, those guys, they're all Hall of Famers. You're talking about, I mean, so we're, you can debate all you want because a lot of people would disagree with me and probably are disagreeing with me, but I'll always come down on maintaining it. Just ask Frank Solich how tough it is to maintain it after Tom Osborne gave him the keys to the car. It's not easy. And nobody has done well since Tom Osborne at Nebraska.
Exactly.
But when he was okay.
Well, and the thing is, and going back to the podcast that you did with John Baylor, his thoughts on it and the way he kind of breaks down and the comparisons between the personalities of those four, comparing Osborne to Devaney and Cook to Pettit was just fascinating. So, like I said, it's that interview, Tom, it was like, it was funny. I was out in small town Nebraska this weekend and actually recording another episode we're going to drop this week. And I had several people that had listened to it. And one of them told me, they said it was really kind of cool. I mean, they say that they known each other for 30 years, but it was like I was like sitting at a bar just listening to him talk. It's like I was eavesdropping. It's one of the best interviews I've ever heard. It was fantastic.
Well,
so
thank you. NebraskaGems.com is where you go. You can find all of our podcasts there or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep.
Nebraska
Spotify,
Gems.
Apple.
We drop at least one every week and sometimes two. But we're trying to get guys like John Baylor. We've already gotten Rick Swigger. We've gotten James Clayton Anderson, the astronaut. So we're really efforting every single day to get you great stories, and that's what Nebraska Gems hopes to accomplish.
And the next one is going to be an interesting story from somebody you don't know about a small family-owned business in South Central Nebraska. Unbelievable. The matriarch of the family was born in England and came over as a war bride.
Where I came up with the idea for Nebraska Gems, and you've helped it grow along with Dave Sanderson. And I thought about it again this weekend when my friend Jack Pierce died. He's a close friend of the family, has so many great recruiting stories, one of the best recruiters in Nebraska football history. And you've met Jack. He is one in a million. He passed last week, attended his funeral. And there were so many football players that attended at Memorial Stadium, went to West Stadium, and they were telling stories about Jack and how he recruited them. And Broderick Thomas saying he hid me out for a night, so Texas wouldn't find me, and Oklahoma couldn't sign me. And they love him for that.
Yep.
And the Mickey Joseph story, that he bonded with Mickey Joseph, and you couldn't have them sign a letter of intent at the school, so he did it through a fence. I mean, stories like that. He recruited Barry Sanders and had him. There were a couple of coaches that thought Barry was too small, so they didn't recruit Barry to Nebraska. They had Marshall Falk ready to commit to Nebraska, and they didn't get him. Those both were Jack Pierce guys. He was a legend in recruiting. And my big thing with Nebraska Gems was, why didn't I get those stories on tape? Yeah, we've had him on the air, and that was great. And you can find some podcasts involving Jack, certainly on the radio when he did interviews. But I just wanted more than just the recruiting stories to people to get to know Jack. And that's what Nebraska Gems does. You get to know the person and the stories that go with them. And I hope that they're evergreen, that they just live forever. And then when we lose people like that, we don't really lose them. I mean, we're still never going to lose Jack Pierce. You can't ever lose a Jack Pierce. He goes on. He's just one in a million. I love the guy, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to start Nebraska Gems. And thanks for helping out.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been a fun project that we've started and will continue with. I do want to talk about Brandon Moore. And you might say, Brandon Moore, who's he? Well, he just committed to Nebraska. He was a defensive back, both for Travis Fisher at UCF, and then he went to Florida State. He was injured in 2019, and now he's on campus via the transfer portal. Nebraska is loaded in the secondary. I think it's nice that you have Brandon Moore, but where are you going to put him? We'll talk about it. Coming up next, he's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. This is Husker Rewind.
Join Eric Strickland and Nate Brennan this Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Nebraska High School Sports Hall of Fame, just north of Haymarket Park. Admission is free, and you can check out the city's coolest hidden gem and learn a lot, too. That's Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. with On the Block at the Nebraska High School Sports Hall of Fame at 500 Charleston Street, just north of Haymarket Park.
My Shiro always goes the extra mile, stretches every dollar, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceretirement.org/Shiro.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza, the big one, all the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
More of the Sunday Rewind is coming your way next.
60% of the time, it works every time.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind, where I can promise you that 60% of the time, we're going to make at least a modicum of sense.
I think the show's made sense so far.
Yeah, it has, I think, maybe. I don't know. One thing that I know you and I were like, I don't know if this makes a lot of sense other than having a little bit of luxury here. And that is defensive back Brandon Moore. Through the transfer portal, played at UCF under Travis Fisher, was at Florida State, and through injuries and everything else, he's got his COVID season, his super senior year, and he is going to play that super senior year here at Nebraska in 2022. Nebraska in the defensive backfield right now, they already have, well, let's go. Quentin Newsome, Tommy Hill, Braxton Clark, Taman Lynham, Jaden Gold's a freshman, but could be an impact player. Marcus Buford, Omar Brown. You still got 5-star Tyreek Johnson, the transfer from Ohio State. Miles Farmer, Deshaun Singleton. Noah Pola Gates has been a guy that has had his name called. Omar Brown, Javen Wright. That's a lot of guys.
A lot of guys.
But you also have a talented young man in Brandon Moore that knows and understands the defense because he played in it at UCF. If anybody goes down, you've got, somebody that's already got all of that knowledge and all of that background. But again, you're sitting there and you're like, do we really need him? And at the end of the day, key thing is scholastically, he's going to, be able to get more education, get the degree. That's awesome. And you think somehow, some way he's going to find his way onto the football field.
And I think that probably Travis Fisher, knowing who he is, and most definitely said to him, hey, we're loaded. Or maybe he didn't phrase it that way, but hey, if you want to play here, you better show up and know your stuff and play extremely hard. And I know you will because you played in 21 games for me. And you made 77 tackles at UCF. You were reliable. He's a guy that if Travis Fisher says he could play, I believe he can play because I think Travis is one of the best coaches in the Big Ten as far as secondary coaches. I think that he's had opportunities to leave Nebraska and go a variety of different places, and he stayed loyal to Scott Frost because he's seriously an up-and-comer. He's demanding with his defensive backs, but he's also a guy that has their respect and their trust. But again, Brandon Moore, 6 foot 180, 77 tackles, 2 interceptions in the 2017-18 season at UCF. I think the question is a good one. Does Nebraska need another defensive back? Do you need another leader? Probably. Do you need a guy that wants to show up and work hard? That is somebody that could be a role model for other defensive backs that could show them the way because they've been around Travis Fisher. He's been around Travis Fisher during his career, and that's probably one of the reasons that he came to Nebraska. I doubt that Travis Fisher had the discussion, hey, you come here, you're going to start. I doubt he said that. You come here.
Yeah, pretty safe bet he did not.
Because he probably said, hey, if you come here, we've got Quentin Newsom, who's really good, and Tommy Hill, who probably will play in the NFL. And we have Braxton Clark, who has a lot of experience. And we have Omar Brown, who is one of the best FCS players early on in his career at Northern Iowa. But we'd love to have you because you're a great leader. You're a good football player. And if you work hard, who knows? Injuries happen for sure. And I think Travis Fisher said it earlier this week. He said, hey, you're always one play away. You're always one play away from getting in the game. It is interesting when you look at the defensive backfield because I think Quentin Newsom, because who's going to replace Cam Taylor-Britt? And he didn't do it immediately, but by the middle of the year, you weren't forgetting about Cam Taylor-Britt, but you were thinking, man, we found ourselves a really good cover corner. Can he tackle? I think that was the big thing about Quentin Newsom. He's become a very good tackler. Tommy Hill, they say he makes more plays in practice than any other defensive back. Like he is maybe the next Cam Taylor-Britt at Nebraska. I'm not saying that. It seems like they are. So you've got your two corners, and then you've got nickel corner potential in some of these other guys. I mean, they cross-train all their guys anyway. Miles Farmer, I think, and Mark, I don't know who the other safety with Miles Farmer will be. It could be Marcus Buford.
I think Deshaun Singleton's going to work his way into that role.
It could be Omar Brown, who they really like. I guess Kane Williams. There's a reason they took Kane Williams late in the transfer portal. They didn't need another DB when they took Kane Williams, and they took him. And apparently he had a pick 6 in practice recently or a big interception. So I think you've got some options at both corner and safety. And again, Travis Fisher likes to cross-train his guys anyway. If you're a corner, you're a safety. If you're a safety, you're a corner. Or you're a nickel corner. It'll be interesting to see if Nebraska can take that next step along the defensive line, the linebacker, how the defensive backs will benefit from that. Because if they can get pressure, if O'Shawn Mathis can get pressure, guys like Quentin Newsom and Tommy Hill are going to benefit from that.
Well, and I don't think it's just going to be O'Shawn Mathis that's going to be getting pressure. I think it's going to be Garrett Nelson. I think it's going to be Blaze Gunnerson. I think Jamari Butler. I mean, those edge rushers for Nebraska this year, with the addition of O'Shawn Mathis, I think they should be some of the best edge defensive ends, whatever you want to call them, in the Big Ten. It may be the best pair, and it's not even a pair because I think we go too deep at both sides.
Right. I think Caleb Tanner is a guy as well.
Oh, yeah. And I forgot about Caleb
I think
Tanner.
they like Blaze Gunnerson. I think they like a lot of these younger guys who, by the way, have picked up their game because they see a guy like O'Shawn Mathis practice every day and they go, oh, I guess that's how you do it.
Well, and the one thing, and my apologies for getting Caleb Tanner, because when we were talking to Nguyen and Banks last week, they brought up Caleb Tanner and his speed. Yeah. Like he was fast when he got here, but he's now fast, like next level fast. So
you mentioned Nebraska baseball. I do want to get a nominee, if you have one, for Get Off My Lawn this week.
Get off my lawn.
My Get Off My Lawn, it was actually kind of easy. It could have been him in any of our Get Off My Lawn segments. Deshaun Watson, Get Off My Lawn. Friday, he comes out in one of his few press conferences since he went to Cleveland, and he says, I'm so truly sorry to all the women. Yet, before that, all he's done is make comments like, I have no regrets for my actions. Really? Get off my lawn, dude.
I'm going to go with Cameron Smith for joining the Live Golf Tour. I just don't think it was necessary. It's obviously a money grab. Here's a guy that's already won majors. I mean, he's going to, he could stay in the States, or obviously he's not leaving the States. So I'm not saying that, but joining the Live Golf Tour, and we know it's a little tainted. I don't think it was necessary for him to do that. He could have made a lot of money and stayed on the PGA Tour or the European Tour. I just think, Cam, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. All Live Golf is a money grab exhibition.
I just don't see it going anywhere. And more power to you. You got $50 million or $100 million or whatever it is. I hope you can live with yourself. Tiger can. They offered him $800 million.
Exactly.
We got to get out of here. We've got 1 minute left in the show.
Real quick, Nebraska hoops. They get a commitment out of Eli Rice. He's a 6'7" guard. He's going to go to the IMG Academy this year. And a lot of people said, Eli, why are you committing to Nebraska? They've struggled mightily here recently because everybody goes to big-time schools when they play at IMG. And he goes, you know what? I love Coach Hoiberg. I love his system. I think I can thrive there, and I'm going to go be a 6'7" guard that's going to make a difference. So
I like it. I like the pickup. A 6'7" guard. That's all you have to say to me. Who can also play Sam Griesel. We've seen that already. 6'6", 6'7". I like a point guard, and he apparently can play all three guard positions. So I'm a big fan of that. Good pickup for Husker basketball this week. We are out of here. Let's
man.
We should do another show next week, and then the football season will be here.
I love it.
We're leaving.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you want to come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.